I'm Lucas Walker. I'm a business consultant. I started in 2016 to help people start and grow their businesses. So this is a 10-year anniversary for me pretty much,
Nice.
which is an eternity in the coaching world.
Really?
The number of coaches who come in and like, I'm going to be a business coach or a marketing coach.
They burn out
and
fast.
then like 3 months later, like, oh, I got a job somewhere. It's pretty high.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Yeah.
So how do you feel like it's gone? Do you feel like you've, I mean, obviously you're still in business, but
Yeah.
like, do you feel like you've passed a certain threshold of like no going back now?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So for me, my journey into becoming an entrepreneur was sort of wild. So I worked a jobby job, 7 years, working 70 plus hours a week, having no real life.
70.
Yeah. It was pretty crazy.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And then at the end, I kind of felt rug pulled. I was doing some sales work and they wanted to lower my commission percentage. And so I'm like, well, I'm never missing. I took years where I didn't even take my vacation time. I'm helping train new people. I'm a hard worker. And you wanted to lower this. I was like, I don't think I want to sign this lowering.
Right.
And so they were like, okay, well, then you can just leave now. If you want to put in your 2 weeks? I was like, okay, I put in my 2 weeks. And they said, okay, no, we don't need it. You just leave today. I was like, wow. That was pretty shocking. Like, I kind of felt like, oh, you're loyal to someone. And so you put in time and then they reciprocate that and then you build up over time. But I realized that wasn't the case. And so then I thought, well, I don't want to go work for someone else, put in that level of input and then be able to be, rug pulled again. I wanted to be my own boss so that I could fail or succeed on my own terms.
Yeah.
So since I had the sales background, I thought, okay, I'll take that and I'll apply it to help business owners sell more.
Yeah.
Because how often do you talk to someone who, does lawn mowing and doesn't say, hey, we do mulching too, or we can do other stuff. There's an opportunity there to educate business owners. And so that's how I started the consulting business, but nobody wanted that. So over time, I've evolved how I do my job. So at that time, people didn't care about sales training. They wanted marketing. Digital marketing was cool and hip and back then. That was like an up and coming thing. And so I was like, okay, well, let me figure out some of this stuff. So I developed some tools to help people with that. So now the marketing was ticking along. The sales was working. They were selling more, but they couldn't keep up business-wise. So
couldn't keep
up business-wise. So if you're, a little lawn mowing company or whatever company, and all of a sudden you're selling twice as many people, now you can't service those people. You're pissing them off. And your previous customers you're doing an awesome job with, you're not doing a good job with them. So operationally, you have to have those systems in place. So I expanded the operational helping businesses too. And then over time, that got going well. And then now all of a sudden, well, we're doing a lot of work, selling a lot of work, have a lot of employees, but I'm not making any money as a business owner. So now the financial piece got added on. So essentially over time, like I've kind of just added these layers to grow with these companies.
What's been your favorite part?
My favorite part is helping people. So what I think is, for me, I didn't know many people growing up who were entrepreneurs, honestly. Like I thought back, to me, that wasn't even in a reality of what you do. It's just, you just go get a job somewhere. Like, was that your experience too?
It was exactly the same.
Yeah. And I was like, thought back, like I knew one guy, he owned a cheesecake shop. And I was like, that's the entrepreneur I knew. He's the guy that I went to church or whatever. Like that's the one guy I could name that I kind of had talked to a little bit. Everyone else just, they got a job somewhere.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anybody else that I ever had any interactions with in my life and I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, no immediate family. It was like, no. So.
Yeah. So super uncharted. So for me, then I was like, okay, I got sort of rug pulled. Like, what do I want to do now? And I tried to figure out, well, how do you do something else? Like, how do you go into business for yourself? And I found the information was really hard to sift through. Sort of there's not enough and too much all at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, there's the hoops of like setting up an LLC and all that stuff. That's not so bad. But you get into, okay, like, how do you make money? How do you actually charge somebody? How much do you charge? Like all that stuff. You get into this realm where all these people selling their business books are like going super crazy and all this heavy branded, cool stories, cool sounding names that don't apply to your business. It was hard to know what to actually do. So I realized down that path, if I'm struggling with this, other people probably are too.
Sure.
And I'm pretty good usually at taking information and learning and pulling it all in and kind of putting it back together again. So I've sort of over time have built that for people like me who thought, okay, maybe they were a plumber for somebody, they want to start their own plumbing business. They're great at the craft of plumbing and fixing, leaky pipes, but how do you hire employees, manage the finances, do sales, marketing, wear all the hats of a business owner? And I found just a lot of joy in giving people that pathway to living a different life. In that, I mean, I've had people, I've saved marriages, people have pulled out their retirement to start a business, it's failing, like their marriage is in danger, their house is in danger of disappearing.
It's
like,
funny, not funny. I mean,
it's
really,
funny, not funny. Like it's that level. Like people would go all in on this, and the wrong information and the wrong sources can really pull someone down a bad path. So I'm very proud that everything I've done has been really practical focused on what really helps business owners actually in the moment, and not what sounds cool. There's an idea from like magic, like card magic. A guy named Di Vernon. He was one of the most famous magicians, and he had this idea that if you have a trick that is clever, that's a bad trick. So I'm doing a magic trick for you, and like, oh, that was so clever. It's sort of like, I'm smart, you're stupid, look at my magic trick.
Yeah.
And that's not a good magic trick in his opinion. And I think that for me, business is the same way. There's all these clever ideas, like, what's this fancy thing? What's this cool thing? Versus like, what actually works in the real world?
Yeah.
And not getting caught up in the clever stuff is so key to actual success.
It's like a shiny little whatever versus this is just simple.
Yeah.
It's the simple. When you clean a toilet, you can use the fancy stuff, but sometimes you just have to use elbow grease to get it clean.
Totally. You nailed it. Yeah. So like AI is the clever thing right now.
Great, we're done.
There we go, we're done.
Nice.
Finish it out. Yeah.
So you're ready to write a book?
Oh, maybe. I mean, so for me, it's been interesting is like, I feel this whole path, I've been like Indiana Jones, like running in front of the rock behind me, like with my clients.
I've got your hat.
Yeah. It's under the door. You got to dive and grab it,
Okay.
It's like, my clients have to stay ahead of what their needs are. So I've grown as they've grown the entire time. And it's like, oh, I need to like add this skill to my toolbox, add that skill to my toolbox.
So how do you, when you're in that moment, I mean, do you just constantly reflect on, take out the mirror and that mirror right there and look in the mirror and be like, okay, so what do I need to do to prepare for my clients so that they are, or do you, at this point, is it just rote and you don't have to think about it as much?
Yeah, it's still ongoing growth for sure, but it's becoming more repeatable. I'm identifying that this is a version of this problem before.
Yeah.
So for me, I think you've done some personal development stuff yourself, right?
A lot.
Yeah. Me too. So we can kind of dive into that some more, which is really interesting to me. But I think part of a first step is like a framework of how you think about a problem. So if you can't really define what are the elements of a problem, it's hard to take further action. And so a lot of this is, if I had a client struggling with finances, for example, early on, it was like I needed to learn what are the key frameworks of finances, like the vocabulary words like cost of goods sold, income, expenses, profit, profit margins. Those types of key terms and how they fit together mattered a lot. And if I didn't know those, I couldn't do anything else. So whenever I've run into a problem, I go back to what are the key unwavering first principles of this problem that exist, and then from there I can learn more. And typically then within that, there'll be like branches of paths of problem, like how can you charge more for a service? That gets into maybe some sales side of things versus the finance side of things. And so from there, it kind of branches off. But a lot of books and podcasts. A business owner doesn't have time necessarily to read every business book out there on sales. And if they are bad at sales, they probably don't want to read even one book or even hear a little bit. So me giving them the Cliff's Notes, only how it applies to their business, tends to be an accelerating process.
Sure. I bet so.
Yeah. So you've done a lot of personal growth and development. What's that been like for you? Like how have you approached that?
Personal development, it's a daily thing, man. I mean, it's just like working out. It's like Toastmasters. If you don't do it on a regular basis, I think your skills are going to suffer, or your abilities in that thing are going to suffer. And I think that's true in business. Is you've got to, it's like golf, right? In golf, you've got different components to golf. You've got teeing off, you've got putting, you've got all the stuff in between that. And if you don't, you can work on one thing. You just go to the range and hit balls. That's great for teeing off. But if you don't also focus on putting, you're going to suffer. And I think the same thing is true throughout life, whether it's personal development or business development, right? I mean, business development meaning like your development of your business or taking care of your business. And I think it's the same thing. Wouldn't you agree? I mean,
100%, yeah.
you don't focus, you can focus on little pieces here and there, but I think you still have to keep the big picture in mind, especially if you're an owner of a business. And typically they are, but not always, right? I mean, they may be the technician, not the visionary. And then that would be a thing like how do you deal with that when you have that kind of person? How do you pull out the mirror and say, this is you, and you don't have this other component? How do you fill in the gaps for that? I'll let you talk. I'm gonna stop talking.
Yeah, no, that's a great question to ask. So most people I work with, that's actually the case. And there's this idea you need to work in your business and work on your business. But the reality for most people is the working in the business is what actually brings the dollars in the door. And the working on the business you're doing totally for free. You're making no money for all the time you spend thinking about your marketing materials or whatever else. You're making $0. And so most people to actually launch a successful business, they're doing it as the technician doing the work for the money. And that's why they benefit from someone like me, is they tend to be underdog entrepreneurs. These are people who don't have mom and dad or uncle that's like, hey, here's $500,000, go start up a business. They're like, they left the job, they have to be making money pretty quick from month 1 through 6 to pay their bills to keep the business going. And so they're good at that side of things. So it's hard to build the others. And so that's why working with me, doing their own personal development, books, podcasts, some other outside source to say, here is how you might be a visionary if you don't have that skill. Here's how you might get better at the finances, the sales, all those other hats. It's really hard. But with your golf example, I like that, is I think you can also get driven mad sometimes. It's like, okay, I want to get better at golf. Like, I'm going to go to the driving range hitting really good long drives, but my putting game is bad. And also, I'm not good out of the sand trap. And also, like, my clubs maybe aren't right. And I need to actually change my swing and swing like so-and-so and not so-and-so. It can really derail quickly. And it can be overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah,
Have you dealt with that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think that, and this is literally in terms of golf, I have had moments where I'm like, you really have to focus on where you're hitting the ball as much as anything, because if you don't, you're going to wind up slicing it out to the right or hooking back to the left. And I think that's a key component. Like, are my feet in alignment with where I want to hit the ball? Which is funny because that translates also to business. I
think the longer that I've been around, the more I see how you get good at any one skill is how you get good at all skills. It's kind of like, what are the fundamental things about golf in general?
Being a good athlete.
Being a good athlete. And then you essentially do some repetition of, I'm going to just keep hitting a ball and see what happens. And then, okay, I'm always, it's always hooking or whatever. And how can I adjust that? And then that fix it or not fix it. There's kind of this scientific process.
Good coaching.
Yeah. But there's also the application. There's a lot of people that just do a lot of hearing, coaching, reading books, but they never actually put any of it into play, and then nothing changes.
And what do you think it is about that where do they fail in that?
Yeah, I think that a lot of coaching and information and personal development can be really entertaining. It's like a TV show that we don't feel guilty about.
Right.
Like, oh, I'm reading a business book. It's not like a science fiction novel. This is serious stuff, but really I'm getting a thrill out of thinking through things. And it's scary to take action and make changes happen. Because if you do, either it doesn't work and now you've been led astray and fooled, or it does work and you have to look back at, geez, what was I doing these past few years? And I know for me in my personal development journey, a lot of times I realize I've been making a mistake, and geez, how long has this been going on? Oh, my whole life. That's a problem. I didn't know this before. And there's sort of this part of me that wants to be like, well, that's just okay, that's how I am, and just to not make a change happen. And it takes a little bit of stick-to-itness to change your golf swing and say, okay, well, I'm going to get some more yardage, but I'm going to be in some pain in the short term.
Right.
So some bravery, I think, for people. So when I work with clients, I'm always amazed with how brave they are to be trying new things and to be applying things. And I'm always sad whenever I see someone that's really stuck and they keep looking for that clever new piece of information that's going to be, aha, this is the magic wand, the magic pill.
Magic pill.
Yeah.
It's
My
the
golf
weight
swing
loss-
is perfect.
The weight loss pill or whatever it is.
Pill, yeah.
It's the quick fix.
Yeah.
And so many people say, it's the hard things in life that really make it worth living, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about what gives you momentum when you're helping these people.
What gives me momentum?
Yeah.
So typically by the time I talk to somebody, they are having some pain that's gotten significant enough they've reached out for help. It's kind of like
They don't proactively do that?
sometimes, but pretty often by the time that they're looking for help, it's kind of like they're going to the doctor of like, hey, my heartbeat's going crazy. They're kind of at that level typically. There's at least one level of pain. Their employee turnover's gotten crazy. They're not sure how to sell more work. They don't know what their finances mean in their business. There's some pain point typically. And so just like that doctor example, it's how do we first stop that bleeding and reduce that pain?
Yeah.
And then what's interesting is that like in golf, it's all tied together. If you're trying to lower your golf score, it's how are you driving? How are you putting? Like how are you chipping? All that stuff comes together. So typically they have one problem they think, but you go deeper, there are other problems. And oftentimes at the core, a business can only grow to the level of personal development. So if they think that they're not worthy, if they think that people only like them because they're nice, it's hard to maybe address with an employee that the employee has messed up because they want to be a friend and they don't want to come down hard on somebody. These personal pieces are tied in, and people say personal and business are separate, but the guy running the business is also an individual human being. He's not a robot, and he has his own feelings, and that's hard.
For sure.
So momentum is built off of those small wins that start to stack up. And what makes me so happy is to see someone get some of those small wins early on and then realize like, oh, this is getting easier. Most business owners don't mind working really, really hard. They just don't know what to work on. And there's so much noise out there that they work on the wrong thing. They're like, well, I spent $10,000 with this marketing agency this last year that made me no money. There's no ROI. And now I spent this money and this didn't happen. And I put in this effort because I read this book, but it didn't work for my business. And they get really discouraged. And so just getting them on that path of having something that's working is really helpful.
Now, do you think that with business owners, they tend to be do-it-yourselfers?
Yeah.
Completely.
Totally. Yeah.
They're like, I don't need to get me a coach. I'll just read, listen to a podcast, and I'll learn everything I need to know.
Yeah.
It's funny how that works because I think investors definitely are that way as well. They're just
it's part of the recipe for success though, because part of what makes you say, I'm brave enough to go out on my own and figure this out that's really hard, uncharted territory and not know it all first, that is part of the strength. Yeah. But it's recognizing at what point in time can you save yourself, can you make your do-it-yourself a little bit easier by having a little bit of guidance? And sometimes you don't need that. Like my biggest hope is my clients fire me quickly. Hey, we got this thing solved. Great, you're on track, keep going. But I've also...
And how many circle back around and be like, hey, you know what? I was good for 3 months, 6 months or whatever, and now I need more help again.
Yeah, a lot of them do. And a lot of them actually know that they could fire me anytime, but they're happy to keep working with me. I have many clients working with me for years and years and years because even though maybe we've solved their initial problem, they recognize everything else is a little bit easier with this kind of weekly accountability check-in. How are things going? What's new? What did you deploy in your business? How did that go? Kind of head off problems at the pass. It makes it all so much easier than wait till there's a problem and then like, hey, I'm having an emergency. And it's like, okay, well, what's even going on? What's changed? It's harder to get back in that mode.
Yeah. And do you set them up, like when they initially come in, do you set them up with those expectations of like, you might get to a point where you feel like you don't need me anymore? Do you do that? Do you have that conversation with them?
Sometimes, yeah. It really depends. The hard part is that, most people don't know how consulting works and what it even is. Yeah. And so there's like this information overwhelm, and it's hard for me to be like the Sam's Club sampler and be like, hey, here, have a taste and see how it is. Like you kind of don't want to do too much up front because it confuses matters. And so it's more of let's get into the process, solve some problems. We can talk more about that process later, but let's sort of start managing and solving
So
problems.
let's say you have a new client and they come in, just going back to golf, do you have them do a few swings on with different clubs to see what where they're maybe need some help or assistance or guidance? Or do you just say, what do you need, and let them explain to you what they think they need?
Yeah, that's a really astute question because almost nobody knows what their actual problem is. They have a general idea,
Yeah.
but in golf, there's such a tangible, you hit the ball and you can see what happened. In business, they're just like, I'm just really frustrated. I don't know. It seems like I'm not making much money. It seems like my employees, I can't hire anybody that's any good. It seems like they kind of have this general idea. So the first step is actually defining the problem even. I like the quote, a problem defined is a problem half solved. And there's so much, that first conversation is really about what is your problem, what's actually even happening here. And so a common one is someone comes in and says, hey, I'm just really feeling stuck in my business. And so a framework I've realized over time is if you're stuck, either you have a sales problem or a capacity problem. A sales problem means that you have people twiddling their thumbs, could be doing more work, but you can't sell enough work to keep them busy. A capacity problem means that your sales are working great, but your guys can't keep up. You got a backlog, you're saying no to people. So which of those is more likely they're corporate? Usually they know, oh, it's a capacity or it's a sales problem. And from there, okay, well, what's happening on the sales side? Mm-hmm. Is it a marketing number of leads? Is it a closing those leads? On the capacity, is it, do you need to hire more people, have better systems? And so from there, you kind of get to pinpoint in. But even having a guide through that terrain, for them, it's just all this jumbled mess of stuff. So the first session is almost always getting down to what is a root area to start with.
Yeah, and that's funny because when I met with Jody, she talked about that. They do an initial analysis. Initial analysis isn't the right term, mm-hmm. but being in massage and health, it was like you did an initial assessment, and oftentimes with like say Western medicine, just Western medicine is like we're going to look at the symptom, we're going to resolve the symptom that you have, or we're going to treat that. Whereas Eastern is more like, let's look at the whole person, the whole being, the whole business, and then we will figure out first the symptom, and then let's get down to the root problem, because oftentimes the symptom is not the root problem.
Yeah.
And I think that translates well across different industries.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, I think that we assume that the world works like a well-oiled machine, and you just move this over here and everything is fixed, but it's all very much interwoven and intertangled to get to the bottom of it. Like you said, like with the massage and the analysis and figuring that piece out. It's very different than always cut and dry A to B. And
then when let's say you have a new client, you meet with them, you do your initial assessment. Do you meet with them is that up to them to decide the frequency, or is that you kind of dictate or give them, we can meet once a month, or we can do depending on what their issue is, or is it just kind of vary?
Yeah. So I have two basic ways I work with people. Mm-hmm. One is on a one-off situation. So someone has a singular acute problem that's popped up. We can dive in probably an hour or two, make good progress on that problem. They go about their way for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, however long, a year, forever, and they're fine.
Yeah.
That's one way. I do one-offs.
You're stitching up the wound.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just like, hey, I'm stuck. Like I have people that are like, hey, I have a side hustle. I want to make it my full-time job. I don't know how to make that leap. Is this feasible? I can walk them through like what that might look like.
Yeah.
Things like that are pretty common. The way that I help people the most is by meeting every single week. So we'll set up like every Tuesday at 4 o'clock is our time. Every week. A lot of my clients are all across the nation, not just in Springfield, so it's via Zoom typically. We'll have an hour meeting. We go over some material. We send them notes afterwards to summarize what we talked about, what the action steps are. And then that keeps that process going. That can be stopped anytime, but typically that goes on as a longer term thing because that progress really stacks quickly. Because one of the big obstacles with anyone new is in massage, your analysis could be fairly quickly. You're going to spend 15, 20 minutes feeling around a little bit, like how does this feel?
Sure.
In a business, the information about the business is in the owner's head, or they don't even know. And so that discovery process is much harder to say, like, was this an employee problem or was this a them problem? Was this a systems problem or a training problem?
And how do you figure that out? How do you get down to it? as quick
Yeah.
as possible.
Yeah, so part of that is recognizing patterns across a large group of businesses, but then eventually you get to a spot where you kind of make a decision and say, I think my prediction is that this is the core root of the problem. So let's enact this set of solutions and see if the problem gets better or not. And usually it gets better. But if it didn't, no problem. Next week, we'll adapt and tweak and we'll work on this solution. This one made it better. Because what I'm looking for usually is not a 1% improvement or a 2%. I'm looking for the 80% improvement. It's like, real estate investing. You're not trying to find like, what's the 2% return on money? Like, what's the giant opportunity? Where can you really make
I
it
want
big?
100K return
Yeah. Yeah. But I
on
mean,
one deal.
but that happens in business. Like you should see the giant spike of results if you make the right change. Because really the to-do list of all the things they could do better in their business, I mean, it's 10,000 things in any given business they could be doing better. So what are the few areas that is a low-hanging fruit that's easy enough to do that you actually have in your power to make changes on? It takes very little investment, just maybe a little bit of time, not thousands of dollars to implement, that you can actually make a big change. And that's what I really focus on because they don't have time to be, I got 0.5% better over here. Like what made something 60% better stress-wise for them or profit-wise?
Right, right.
So,
and do you see trends between different business types? Let's say it's a HVAC company. Do you see trends between companies that are similar to that and other businesses maybe where they're a product business, they're selling a product to people? And I'm just using that as an example. Do you see those like similarities in those businesses or is it just per owner?
will you ask the question again? I understand like
Trends.
Trends of what?
In like when they come to you and they say, hey, I have a problem, the most common problem with that business type is,
Oh, yeah. Most of my clients are in service-based businesses. I've found product-based businesses, it's hard for me to have an impact because the core part of a product-based business tends to be, does anyone want this product?
well, let's say then within the service realm, let's say an HVAC company versus, and I don't know, that's a great example, and lawn mowing business. Do you see similarities between those or are there slight differences between? I'm just looking for that pattern.
Oh, the pattern, yeah. So it's very interesting is that even between moving company A and moving company B that I've worked with in different areas, they're run completely different, totally different problems because the variables of the market, the personality of the owner, the things that they like and don't like are totally different. So there are many people out there that I am only a business coach for a moving company, for example, or only for tree service companies. But the problem is they only funnel everyone into this is how you run this business. But there's so much individuality and expression, just like golf. There are a lot of ways to be a good golfer. There's not one right path. And I mean, we've seen the guys with the big old beer belly that have the jerky swing and they just knock it out of the park. They do great. And if you were to like put them down in a golf course, you'd be like, no, you got to really loosen it up and have fluidity. But that works for that guy. And I think for me, I'm not trying to be like the army and break someone down into like this core of what a good entrepreneur is. Like with already who you are naturally, what works. If you're an extrovert, you should be doing some networking for marketing probably. If you're an introvert, probably not doing networking for marketing. There's probably other things you should do. So it's really personalized. But the bigger question about trends, I find it fascinating, first of all, to work with a variety of crazy businesses to do all sorts of crazy things. But two, to start to see like almost an inside thermometer to what's going on in the world. So right now, as of today, something I'm seeing is a lot of business owners are very stressed right now, but they're afraid to say it. They're feeling their customers are a little bit uneasy, and so sales are a little bit harder. People are buying a little less often, and each business owner is assuming it's something that the owner is doing wrong. But I'm seeing it industry-wide, multiple industries, multiple states, everywhere, that the consumers in general are a little bit stressed right now.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to kind of catch up on that. And then I can let owners know that, hey, there are things you can do to be a part of this, but this isn't just a you problem or a your business problem. This is kind of being felt everywhere.
Sure, that's kind of cool.
During COVID, that happened a lot. Before COVID, even there have been times where you feel this uneasiness and they're unsure what that is, and so them having an idea of what's happening is helpful. And it's sort of right now the feeling is sort of, is this storm going to blow over? Is kind of what the consumers seem to be feeling. And like, I'll buy that tree service, but I'm going to wait. Maybe next month I'll do it. Maybe 2 months. But that's across lots of things.
It's like an economy thing. Do you think it's a generational thing? Do you think it's a combination of those? I know there are some trends in real estate with just people buying homes, single family homes. There's a little bit of that, but I wonder if that also is possible in business world.
Yeah,
too.
definitely. Yeah, it's tied to me partially the economy as a piece of it. There's also something about like the culture of personality and how human beings are doing and feeling. And that's kind of hard to put into words so much.
Yeah.
I try to never have political conversations with any of my clients because that's,
Right.
there's lots of beliefs that are all fine in that
Sure.
realm. But sort of if there's a feeling of political uneasiness, whether they're pro or counter a thing, that still affects consumers. They're like, how is this going to turn out? Or I'm so excited, I'm going to go spend money, or I'm kind of concerned I'm not. That varies back and forth sometimes. And so with my clients, I typically, if things feel tumultuous, like during COVID, I would say, tell me what you think is going to happen right now. Because nobody knew early on in COVID. Was this going to be the world has ended, we're all shut down for forever? Are things back to normal in 6 months? Like, what do you think is going to happen? And from there, let's make a plan based on your individual prediction as a customer, and found that over time. So there's a bit of the individual owner needs to predict what they think is going to happen, and that's what's most important.
Yeah.
But yeah, same with real estate. Those trends happen, and you kind of just feel all of a sudden like houses that weren't sitting on the market, they're sitting a bit longer, the sale's a bit different. If it's, regular residential real estate, fixer-uppers are not going like they were before. They want a house that's already all together, unless it's a flip. So that market changes, you kind of notice those patterns over time.
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, just like with the economy, real estate certainly does, and I would venture to guess that the same is true with businesses, whether they're service related or not.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of that. It
That
goes
ride.
up and down, up and down.
Yep.
But in real estate, especially, that trend is pretty predictable for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how it is. You're like, that's happened before. Wow, that's crazy.
Uh-huh.
And then it just keeps happening. And as you look back, you're like, it's still there. It's back further. And you go back further and it's still there. And you're like, maybe a little bit of a variation, a little different, but it's close enough that you're like, this is a regular enough pattern that you can definitely pull it out and say yes.
Yeah. In business, it's weird because you have the macro level of those rises and dives that happens, but you also have each individual business has its own adjustments too. And the owner is usually so focused on what's in front of them that they can't really think back. Well, was it slow in my business last March? Is this a first time thing? So having someone like me to ask those questions and do some checking of like, oh yeah, actually every January, February, March is slow for me. Oh, I shouldn't be freaking out right now. I haven't just, all of a sudden made these giant mistakes. This is just a natural fluctuation. But they're so busy head down they forget.
When you're hitting in golf, if you're looking at the ball and you just look at the ball and you're not really focused on, like when you hit, you should be looking to where you want to hit. If you're just focused on the ball, you're not gonna be. So same kind of thing where
totally.
You're just so fixated on the ball, whatever it is in your business, that you're not looking to or lined up or whatever. So that's interesting. It just happened that way that I brought that up.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Didn't plan that one at all. Let's talk about fun in your business. Besides helping people, what else do you consider fun in business?
I've always just loved learning about new things. And so for me, business is part of a self-development journey, but also helping people is really fun. And I'm always learning new things. My goal is to improve the efficiency with which I can help somebody. So it used to maybe take me 4 sessions to help someone with a certain topic. Now I've built out a toolbox of 100 different tools that oftentimes this plugs right in, and in 1 hour we can really get to the root of things. So that efficiency of helping brings me a lot of joy.
So what's one thing that maybe you've learned in the recent past? I won't say 3 months, but I'll just say in the recent past that you feel like, yes. It can be a year back. I don't care how recent. I put you on the spot.
Yeah, you did. There's almost so much it's hard to explain in a certain way.
Okay.
I would say what's interesting in my personal journey that ties into business is that while I care about business, my real goal is to help owners have less stress and earn more profit. And what they think that I tell them is I want to help them scale their business and grow bigger. But a bigger business is usually more stress and sometimes less profit. And so what's interesting is I really care about the owner as an individual. And one of the things I've been focused on a ton lately is business success eventually becomes a bit about knowing what's wrong, implementing changes, and you repeat that it's going to work. If someone works with me, I can help them fix their business. But are they happy or not? And that's been the most baffling part is business owners have built multi-million-dollar businesses where they don't have to be there working 60, 70 hours a week, and they don't know what to do with their life. They have one identity. I'm the business owner guy. I show up every day, I do that. It's like the guy that retires and like, I don't know, I can play just golf for a few weeks. I can watch a few things on Netflix, and then now, like, what's my life like? So my biggest thing lately has been, how do you find a life outside of your one identity, and what does that look like?
Yeah.
And I don't have answers here yet, but it's a
That's
journey.
good.
And I'm
I like
putting
that.
people on that journey as early as possible, because the more that they have a thing to look forward to, the more motivated they are to actually improve things in their business. You'd be surprised how much people don't make changes in their life because they're worried about, what if this works? What if I don't have to work 60 hours a week? What if this business doesn't need me and I'm not a needed person? Like, then what do I do?
Yeah.
Like, I don't really have any friends. Like, how do I make
Sell
a
the
friend?
business, start a new business.
Yeah, totally. That's what it is. Yeah, like I'll do my next business, but the next one will have less employees, and I'll, that's this whole thing. So it's this whole.
And have you had clients where they've done that, whether they've sold it or they've simply handed off the controls to somebody else that is their right-hand man, and then started another business and done it again, maybe better? Or
I've had clients that have dreamed of doing that.
okay.
But this is one of those the grass is always greener things. It's like, listen, yes, your business now has problems. Yes, it causes you stress, but you know what those are. And it sure is easy to say, well, if I had X business instead, I'd have no problems. It's like, no,
Yeah.
just a whole new series of problems. And so usually the opportunity of regrowing something new is going to take a lot of time, energy, and money, way more than just making what you have now make you happy. And I'm okay with doing that. Also, I'm an accredited business intermediary. I do help people sell their businesses.
Yeah.
Usually that's close to retirement, typically, is when they're kind of looking to phase out of a successful business.
Yeah, I wondered that. I was like, well, at some point, do they just get bored with it and say, I just want to sell the business? It's been 10 years, Lucas. I want to sell it. I want to go move to Florida and do maybe something similar, but I don't want to transfer my business down there.
Yeah, completely. That's not I had a very similar thing to that a couple of years back. So it used to be that I'd help people grow their business, and then they would say, okay, I'd like to maybe look at selling. And I had trouble finding local business brokers who seemed to care very much about helping someone sell a business. And so I was like, I guess I'll become an intermediary myself so I can help out with this process. But it's interesting is that a business is much like a commercial real estate investment. The cash flow it makes you as an owner, like the salary it brings in, is like the cash flow of a door. So it used to be $200 a door was a rental property, what would bring in above the mortgage. Is that close to that number? Is that number changed?
It depends. I mean, it depends on
if
the
you
market.
bought right, something like
Yeah,
that.
if you bought right, obviously, yeah.
So that's the ongoing cash flow. But if you're building a business right, the business itself builds an asset value as well, much like that real estate, the equity you build in that real estate. And so many owners just think, I have a job of my business is bringing in this much salary and I have to work somewhere I don't like to work. I'm my own boss. But the end is you should build something that also has an asset value. So whenever you sell it, it's worth something. And what makes it worth something is this a cash flow machine that spits out cash? And does it work without you being the one doing all the stuff?
Yeah.
You can do a lot. You can do all the managing, but it's better if you don't. And how do you escalate to that level?
Right.
So many businesses aren't worth very much money because the owner is the business.
Yeah,
and
a key
it's
component there.
They're
right in the middle of the flywheel.
Totally. And if they retire and stop, then the business stops. So someone new coming in has to want to do all those things. And oftentimes paying someone to do all the things, or just starting it yourself doing all those things, you start it yourself for $0 and you can build something similar if that other one leaves. There's not a lot of incentive to buy one out.
Right.
So it varies.
Yeah, that's interesting. I kind of wondered. I figured there would be more, but then too, like you said, there's more that are just they are technicians, and not that it's just, but they are technicians.
Yeah.
So they worked someplace else, and they're like, you know what, my boss, c'est la vie.
I can do a better job.
I can do a better job, and they can't do a better job, but then they become a slave to their business, right?
Yeah. The quick trap is my boss pays me $20 an hour. He charges the customer $85 an hour. If I had my own business, I get $85 an hour. And you do until you meet unbillable hours. These are the hours that your boss spent to get those people to come to use you as a service.
Yep.
And then...
And the sales and the marketing and all the expenses you have with it.
Yeah, all the cost of goods sold. Okay, well...
Yeah.
So it changes pretty quickly. But yeah, that's the big picture of that.
Very nice. Are you from the Ozarks originally?
I am a transplant, but I've lived in Missouri a lot of my life.
Man, I surely thought you were original, an OG. Where were you from?
I was born in Warrenton, Missouri, not far from St. Louis.
Okay.
I lived there, and I moved out of there when I was in like kindergarten, first grade, to St. Charles for like 6 months, and then down to the Boot Heel, where I grew up a lot around Jackson, Missouri, Cape Girardeau area.
Okay.
I lived a year in Belgium as an exchange student, though, in high school. So I've been around a
Belgium, the country.
The country,
Okay,
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, where I went and spoke French in school. Lived with families where we just spoke French, so I learned calculus in French. That didn't go very well. I couldn't do calculus in English probably, but that really broadened my horizons on what the world looks like. And yeah.
And then how did you wind up here in Springfield?
So I graduated with a major in theater and a minor in French.
Fun.
And
So you're doing French plays?
Pretty much, yeah.
Or you're doing doing the backdrops and all
the minor was secondary, but then I moved to Branson. I worked in theater there for a year or two. And then I moved to Springfield as a better job market than the Branson job market.
Yeah.
So kind of a circuitous route.
Theater, which you don't have to share which theater, but what did you do there?
I worked... It's not existing anymore, the Bart Rocket Theater in Branson.
Okay.
It was the old Jimmy Osmond American Jukebox Theater. He was a magician and ventriloquist. And so I started off doing not a lot. By the end, I was a stage manager, helping run all the behind the scenes stuff, fixing magical props, sweeping up popcorn on stage for parts of the show, just sort of doing all of the things.
Yep.
And that was an interesting experience, and I wasn't sad to leave it.
Did you ever think at one point, maybe when you first got there, that, gee, I could do something like this, or I could have my own theater, or were you just kind of like, this is a stepping stone to the next thing, or whatever it is?
Yeah, it was a stepping stone for me. Yeah. So from my journey I wanted to be an actor. Okay. What led me into that was actually self-development. So I was very shy. I used acting as a way to force myself to not be shy. I wanted to not do it so much that I made myself do it to get through it. And that's kind of a journey of how I am, is if I have this major problem, I usually would just like run face first into it and do it anyways. And that became part of me. And I was shy from moving around so much. You move around, you kind of lose friends. And I wasn't shy as a young kid. And then you move around a few times like, oh, this is scary and new. But it helped me get through some of that. And now as a consultant, I speak for a living, basically. I'm having conversations nonstop with people.
Yeah.
So
that's funny.
Yeah.
Although that's a little different than being an extrovert. So you consider yourself still an introvert, extrovert, ambivert?
I'm right in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah, it really varies. But like in high school, my friends and I, we did 2 full-length movies that we produced, which was really fun. So I've just been a part of that world, and I've enjoyed it a lot.
Have you done anything with Sado 48 or anything?
I did. I've been in a couple of those
nice.
films here with different people. Yeah, so It's been a fun exchange. I'd like to do a little bit more of that as I build out more of having a life, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah. That's fun. Did you happen to watch Ken Childers?
This episode of the podcast? Yeah, I saw most of it. Yeah,
that's cool. Good deal. Yeah. Well, how was that for me? I think it was probably different because when I was 16, 17, I thought I wanted to be an artist, like a commercial artist. AKA maybe a teacher or something like that.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, I had different ideas. Was that the same for you, or you always kind of gravitated towards acting? Like 8 years old, 6 years old, whatever it
No.
was? Or did you not think about that?
I never knew what I wanted to do. There were people in school that were like, I'm going to be a veterinarian when they're 7. And like, they became a veterinarian.
That's funny. Yeah.
And I'm always like, what? How do you, how do you know this?
Yeah.
To me, it all felt fuzzy. So I think maybe acting was an idea that I could be everything all at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this, I can be a detective now, and then all of a sudden I can be, something else. And you can play in that and get that freedom of expression. The idea of sitting in a cubicle day in and day out doing the same job to me was like that Jiro Dreams of Sushi movie where the guy makes the sushi in Japan and he does like, he massages the octopus 100 times and does it the same way every single day. That's like my hellscape. That's like my nightmare. I don't wanna do
I
that.
took this aptitude test, and I don't even know when it was, but it was the one where you have 2 lines, and you've got like 100 or I don't know, maybe it was 300 of those. Do as many. All you're doing is just connecting the lines as fast as you can, and do that for like 3 minutes. And that was the longest 3 minutes. And I'm like, oh God, just kill me now.
That sounds horrible.
It was. I was like,
Yeah.
So yes, I get you. Anything that is not intuitive or just different, let's go a different direction instead of just the normal, let's do this the same way every single time. I get bored too easy, and I'm just like
Yeah. So being your own boss is a good thing to be whenever that's the case. You kind of lead your self-direct a little bit and go down some different pathways.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then, so sorry to interrupt you. Back from Branson to then what? What was after?
To Springfield. Yeah.
And then you moved into sales, I assume?
Yeah, I did sales in Springfield, and then from there I got burnt out and started my own thing. And it's been a journey.
Sales. How long did you do sales for?
It was like 7 years.
Okay, yeah.
Like I said, like 70 hours a week for 7 years.
Yeah,
and
well, that's
that was
not uncommon for
yeah,
sales.
that was a lot. And
Yeah, that is a lot.
learned a lot in the process, but wasn't sad to leave that behind.
Yeah.
So now I just do sales for myself.
And how's that worked out for you? You think pretty good? Not too bad?
Pretty good. Yeah. It can be always better, and it's ever improving. And I think whenever someone has a business, it's interesting is that business actually dies and is reborn a number of times. So my initial business was only with Springfield local companies, and it looked a certain way. And over time, I've developed to working mostly with remote businesses, not in Springfield, where I can travel and run my business from anywhere.
Yeah.
But in that process, there have been growing pains. What you can do in person in a consultation is different than what you could do online. When you have that trust with someone already built up, that closing the sale is much different than I had a phone call with somebody and then I told them that they should hire my services. It's much different than I saw you at 1 Million Cups, 37 times, and we know each other very well to have that trust built. So it's been a ever-going learning process.
Do you think COVID changed that? The remote factor? Or do you think it was already kind of there before?
I think COVID changed it for me that I actually reached out more outside the area.
Okay.
So
it forced you out of your comfort zone of, like, now I can't network with people, so I have to reach out outside of that.
Yeah, that was a
zone.
part of it. Yeah. And I think in the Springfield area, sometimes people are hesitant to make changes sometimes. There's something that's really wonderful about the Ozarks where people are very comfortable in who they are and that they like how things are around them, but sometimes that can lead to a lack of desire to make any changes. There's a certain subpopulation of people that have never left the Ozarks, never want to. Everything I ever could want is right here in front of me. This is heaven on earth, the end, and that's that.
Pretty close, but not quite.
Right? And there's a lot of great stuff here.
Yeah.
But there's also levels of improvement and self-development and places to go see and new cultures to experience. And there's a little bit of those two concepts that are tied into growth in business. So sometimes people in this area can be, I'm going to just do things the way I've seen things done before and not evolve, or in their personal life in other ways. So that can sometimes be a problem versus in a wider market. There are more people raising their hand like, hey, I'd really like to grow and figure things out. There's a little bit of a hunger there. They don't feel like they have heaven on earth. Maybe they're trying to develop something more. So,
Well, that had to have changed maybe your perspective, right, when you began doing that, because that would be it sounds like it's pretty different than what you were experiencing prior to that, right?
yeah.
Having those Zoom meetings, what do you feel like, what things were particularly, other than them having more of a growth mindset, or more open to growing versus what you didn't have before?
Yeah, I would say, just to maybe clarify, is that there are many people in the Springfield area that have that really intense growth, like desire and mindset.
Yeah.
But it's a subset of the population. And by casting a much wider net across all these other markets, each city, if they have, 2% that have that mindset, there's a large number of people I can capture and talk to. That makes sense.
I got you.
So there's that idea that, the pond in Springfield is only so big. There are X amount of people, X amount of businesses, out of those owners, X amount that actually really are looking for help to next level. And that wider net means that is duplicated across every city in the U.S., basically, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
with you coaching other people, this leads into kind of a mentorship talk. Do you also have somebody that you go to for coaching, or?
Yeah, I don't directly know. I tend to use, books and podcasts
Sure.
and some of my other hobbies and self-development in that way.
Yeah. Okay.
And
well, let's talk about mentorship then.
Yeah.
Since you don't particularly have that, anybody in your life, it could be early, could be more recent, that you feel like has had an impact on you and the direction that you've kind of gone through life?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there have been lots of pieces along the way. And
it doesn't have to be one. It can be
5 of
10.
them. What's interesting for me is that I tend to really close in on what a mentor has to offer. And then by the time that I'm done, maybe I've picked a lot of that out, and then I sort of move on and it's become a part of me, and I almost forget even that what I picked up. So there have been personal people in my life that have definitely had an impact, but I would say lately it's been much more of people I've never met that have written books. Are you familiar with Earl Nightingale at all?
No.
He was one of the very first people in the self-help personal development to ever do audio recordings. He had a record that went like platinum, I believe, or whatever, gold record back in the day, and it was the best-selling personal self-help development of all time. And if you listen to his old stuff, almost everything new is just Earl Nightingale topics that are re-put together. To give you a rough idea, he had his record was called The Strangest Secret. Now, that strangest secret is the core idea of like Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, is like, know what you want, create a plan, and work towards it. There's the newer movie, The Secret, which basically took that idea and said, sit there and do wishful thinking and manifest it and it'll become reality, but don't take any action. But he was the core of that. So there are characters like that I follow at different times based on where I am and what I'm trying to learn and develop on, that become mentors to me. When I find someone that's on a topic I'm working through, I'm really just kind of consuming everything that they have to offer, more or less. And I do a lot
Earl
of
is one of them
journaling.
in particular.
Yeah, he's one that just popped. I mean, no matter where you are in life, if you listen to some Earl Nightingale, you'll probably be like, oh, wow, he had this. That was pretty important.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
Anybody in person that maybe, and then this could be family, it could be uncles, aunts, whatever.
I think I'm a bad listener, so maybe not.
Do you?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
I don't think so. I think you're not a bad listener. Maybe, I would say that's not true at all.
I think I'm bad at taking advice.
Okay. Well,
So-
that's different.
So what I mean, so one of my hobbies is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Sure.
So I've got my lip is busted up. I got scratched up yesterday. I've been training for 17 years. I love it. And one thing I noticed that's interesting is sometimes I'll be going to a class and be like, oh, adjust this grip and do this. Sometimes I have trouble doing that. is a little bit of a strong-willed, well, I'm doing it this way because I want to do it this way. So a little bit that exists. So I think I'm a hard person to mentor in some ways.
I got you.
Unless I'm self-directed if I'm looking for help.
Yeah.
So I'm sure I've been mentored and helped in many ways, but I oftentimes am hard to help.
I think we are, and I think sometimes that mentorship may be in such subtle ways that we may not even realize it. It's some stranger on the road that we pass by, and something happens, some interaction happens, and we're influenced by that in some capacity. Whether it's they stopped and helped somebody else or something like that. I don't know.
That's totally me. Lots of people help me in very subtle ways, and I'm sort of afraid to start talking and leave people out, but that's sort of more how my facility is. I think traditionally there was more of a path to mentorship for some people. We're like, oh, this person really told me, here's the ropes, here's how you do everything. Mm-hmm. I think that's becoming less common in society right now.
Interesting. I don't know if I agree with that, but that's okay. Mm-hmm. We can agree to disagree.
Yeah.
We'll talk about fun for you. What do you do when you're not here? What do you do for fun outside of the office, outside of business?
This is an amazing question. If you asked me this 4 years ago, 6 years ago, I would have said, I don't know. Nothing.
Is that because you didn't know yourself, or because you hadn't tried, or you're too
both. I was
busy?
just very one-dimensional. It's like if we're going to have conversation over coffee, I could talk about business with you or business with you, and that was it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Let's see, I'll take business for $400.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, you don't like business? Oh, well, I don't really know
I'm
what
out.
else to
See you
talk
later.
about. Yeah, like
nice talking to you, Dustin.
See anything good on Netflix recently? I don't really know what to tell you. So I've really been on this journey of, becoming a three-dimensional person. Like, what else do I like? What else is there in the world? So, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is an amazing thing. I train 2 or 3 times a week. I love it. I'm a black belt and have been for a while. I've gotten into mountain biking a bit. Not the crazy downhill steep stuff. I'm not trying to die.
Yeah, I don't want that.
Like some casual fellows lake coasting stuff.
Yeah.
I've done some dancing that's been fun.
Nice.
I've started to develop a friend network because initially I didn't have very many friends. It's hard to build a business and have friendships. I've built friends, and we get together and play games or see movies and have a good time. So kind of developed out into a more robust world.
What do you feel like shifted your focus from one-dimensional to multi-dimensional? Anything in particular?
Yeah, there were a series of things.
Mm-hmm.
One catalyst was I had brain cancer. That was probably one piece of recognizing that things needed to change, but they had started to change a bit before that as well. Yeah. So I was also early in the business. It was survive in the business, and there wasn't a lot of time for other things. I had a previous relationship that was also very all-encompassing, and as that wound down, there was some more space to kind of have an existence, and so kind of stack those on top of brain surgery, and hey, life is pretty short. How do I want to spend my time on this earth? That kind of brings things into perspective.
It does a bit. How long did that last?
Yeah, so I didn't really think I had any symptoms. I started having some random seizures spread out over the course of like 6 months. I think I'd had 3 or 4 seizures. It's been long enough now I kind of forget about it. And I was seeing doctors and getting tests done. Nobody knew what was happening. And I had one seizure that took me in the ER. They said, oh, you have a brain tumor. That's what's causing it. And at the time, I was actually sort of relieved because it was a mystery that kept happening to me. So this is what's going on. And in that process, then I needed to go get that tumor removed. And I talked to local doctors, and they would have probably killed me. I think Springfield has a pretty good medical system, but there are times you need a specialist. You should go to like the best in the world. And so I went to North Carolina to Duke to get that tumor removed. Locally, they wanted to basically cut open my brain and do a biopsy, take a piece of the tumor, basically put a needle in, take a piece of the tumor to see what kind it was, and then probably go back in and take it out again. That would have been 2 brain surgeries. And at Duke, they said, no, we will just do this all in one. Like, it's a tumor, it shouldn't be there, let's take it out. We can look at what it is in the lab afterwards. And they do like 5 a week out there in North Carolina. And the local doctor, I said, will I be awake or asleep during this? And he said, I don't know if we have the stuff to do this awake or not. he wasn't familiar with the equipment that they had on hand to do this surgery.
Okay.
And that didn't inspire a lot of confidence that I wanted him in my brain.
That doesn't tend to.
Yeah. So I had it done in Duke. I was awake during the surgery, and I started seeing my clients again like 6 weeks after brain surgery. Very tiring, but kind of getting back into the swing of things.
Sure. Because being self-employed, of course,
Yeah.
nobody's paying your bills.
Yeah.
So.
They were all very understanding. I had a lot of support during that time.
Yeah, I bet so.
But yeah, it helped me remember that there's, a lot more to life. And
There is. It's little things like that that kind of bring things into perspective and change our perspective completely, or at least modify it like you said, there is not just one dimension, not just business, which is funny though. It's funny now to look back and say, you want to talk about business or you want to talk about business? But now it's like, that's cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice to have you back. And when did that happen?
It was during COVID.
That's what I thought it was.
Last week was the 5-year anniversary from the day of my brain surgery, last Wednesday. So like March 11th, I think was the date.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. So it's in the past. I forget about it most days.
That was the part they took out.
Yeah, the part they took out, yeah. So I have a giant scar on my head. Someday, I'll probably, lose this hair and I'll have a nice L-shaped scar on my head. And there is still cancer there. They can't remove all of it, so it grows back super slowly. I'll probably die of something else, but I have my ongoing checkups and all that stuff.
Sure.
It's something I get to thankfully forget about most days.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Good that you're here for now.
Yeah, good to be here.
Wow.
We covered a lot, right?
How do we follow up with that one, man?
It's pretty heavy. I try not to talk about it.
It's okay.
The worst thing is like the TED Talk person who's like, I had brain cancer and I overcame it, and you can overcome your business problems too. Like, right? Isn't that a thing? Such a thing like that.
I think you should at least try it for maybe a week or so.
For a week or so and see. I mean, to me, that's
what kind of results do you get with that?
Yeah, that's like the worst. So I kind of just leave that on the side, and I'm just me showing up as me. Everyone has their own stuff, and leave it at that. So many people probably don't know that I've ever even had that situation. Didn't know me before or during that process. Yeah. I go to jiu-jitsu. I train with someone who's half my age and strangle them, and the next person same 2 or 3 rounds. Like I'm the age. I've been training as long as you are old right now.
Yeah,
that's pretty crazy to think about. So.
That's cool. And you've been doing that for a long time. So how'd you get into that? Like, what was it?
That was so it used to be actually I could talk about business or jiu-jitsu. Those were the two things.
Okay. So you really lied to us.
I did, yeah. I forgot about that.
There was one more thing.
But jiu-jitsu is a pretty niche thing. It's not many people had much they wanted to say about that. So yeah, I'd watch some of the old UFC. So do you know what jiu-jitsu is, first of all?
I do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I watched some of the old initial UFC fights where basically they're like, which is the best martial art? And these guys that did karate were punching and kicking, and this jiu-jitsu guy just like grabs you up and grapples you to the ground and strangles you. And these karate guys, they thought they were the best because of Bruce Lee, but the jiu-jitsu did pretty good. And I was like, that's pretty interesting. And I don't want to get punched in the face. Martial arts would be cool, but I'm not trying to get like knocked out and get concussions or get broken ribs. So maybe I could do this jiu-jitsu thing. Yeah. And a gym opened up, and I thought, I hate going to like a workout gym and lifting weights, walking on a treadmill. It's not engaging for me. I could like play basketball and be active, but this was a way to stay active. And I tried it out, and it's miserable. It's horrible. You think you're going to do okay, and you just get squished and crushed and crunched, and nothing good happens. But I still liked it anyways. And so back then,
you're like, let's get squished, and let's do it again.
Yeah, you talk about good sales. The salesman that says, hey, pay me X amount of dollars per month to come and get squished day in and day out. And I did it, and I got addicted to it. And then it was much more of like a grindhouse. So you come in, everyone beats you up, and then you just see if you can survive or not. Now it's much more of, hey, welcome, let's help you out. It's like a nicer environment in the jiu-jitsu world now than it was then. So
now, do you still go to the same location?
No, I've changed locations. Yeah, now I train at a different spot down in Ozarks called Dynasty, which is really fun. And
I've seen it, I think.
Yeah, behind Lambert's down there. So it's a good time and just good vibes. The nice thing is that you have kind of built-in friend group everyone's trying to get better and improve. It's relatively safe, very few injuries. Again, I got scuffed on the lip yesterday, which is like a once a year thing. It's pretty rare, but you can train really, really hard and have a good time and get a good workout in and learn something.
Now, were you an athlete or anything like that in school, or?
I played all of the sports for fun, but I didn't play like at a high school level. But basketball, soccer, all the other things. I loved playing.
Did you ever wrestle or anything?
I did. I mean, I just wrestled with friends and stuff.
Oh yeah, but not
at a level. Yeah. That was the funnest part. Is this is like roughhousing as a kid. Like here I'm in my 40s. I get to like roughhouse like I'm a kid and just like have a good old rowdy time.
Hey mom, look at me.
Yeah. Look what I got. So yeah.
Now, are your parents still around?
Yeah, they live in Columbia, Missouri.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you have any siblings?
I have 2 sisters. Yep, they also live
sisters.
Kansas
Older or
City and St.
younger?
Louis. Younger. I'm the oldest.
Okay, good.
So I was
good,
outnumbered
good.
in the house.
I knew I liked you for some reason.
Are you an oldest?
I'm the oldest as well.
The leader.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Something like that. I don't know. At the time, of course,
guinea pig.
I rebelled against it. Like, why do I have to be the one that's responsible and the one that's the adult, the one that does all the good things, the right things? Now I realize, okay, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
And now that's an interesting. Do you see a trend between owners or business owners, like entrepreneurs, and birthright or birth order? That's an interesting. It just
that's a good question. I don't.
You don't typically get into that with them.
Yeah. I
would be curious.
I'd be curious. I'd have to think about that a little bit deeper and see if there's a correlation there. I imagine that anyone in the birth order can successfully do it, but they probably approach it somewhat from that perspective of what that meant to them.
Yeah.
Being a middle child or an oldest or youngest or whatever that looks like probably affects how they run their businesses.
Yeah. I'm curious as we think about that. I'm like, how do people who are just the technician, how do they get around the visionary side of things? Do you help them fill in those gaps, or do you encourage them to bring in somebody that's visionary, or do you help them with that process?
Yeah, I usually actually...
Not to skip back, but I was just it makes me think about that.
Yeah, I usually discourage someone bringing in someone who's visionary in their business. Partnering in a business is a very serious endeavor.
Sure.
If you think, getting married and having a divorce is tough, try having a business and separating from a business partner.
Yeah.
Because in a business, someone can say, I'm just not leaving, and I'm not doing my share either, and I still have half of this company, the end, because you've signed that paper. So typically what I find is if someone is a technician, they are a bit of a visionary, but they're almost afraid to let that part out because they're practical and they're pragmatic.
Yeah.
And so the more we can streamline how their business runs easier without them, it frees up a little bit of that mental space and bandwidth to be a visionary. So.
Sorry. I put it on Do Not Disturb, yet I'm still getting calls. I'm like, what is going on here?
Mr. Popular here.
I don't know what it is. Yeah, that's interesting. I really, and what's the percentage approximately of those who are, is it 90% that are technician, do you think? Ballpark, 60%, 66%, 2/3?
Of the people I work with, probably 99% are technicians.
Wow.
Because the problem with a visionary is that you can have the greatest armchair idea, but you have to actually do it.
Sure.
And oftentimes a visionary sputters out at that level unless they can attach on to a technician who will do all of that work for them.
Right.
Versus a technician can usually just say, I'm just going to work hard and make this business happen. And people like them, they do a good job, they get to reuse them. And so vision is less needed early on than like just doing the work. And I see visionaries oftentimes struggle because past the envisioning stage, what they enjoy, the doing stage they don't enjoy. And so oftentimes the visionary is like, I'm going to have this AI-based business that does this week, and next week it's AI business that does this, and then next week it's a blockchain business that does that. They kind of keep looking at what is this new thing that gets them that jolt of excitement, but they don't so much enjoy the minutia of, okay, so what's step one on that plan, that project, and how do we do that? Well, it's raise $1 million. Well, that's a pretty big hurdle that you're probably going to get tired before you overcome unless you're really motivated about that. So I think most people have some degree of vision, and even the technician, their vision is usually, I'd like to replace my previous income with this income and not work for somebody else. Like that
They
level
would
of
be happy
vision is
with
good
that.
enough. Yeah, that level of vision is good enough to like, okay, now I can breathe and I can decide, do I want to do something more or am I pretty happy here? Do I want to bring on an employee or just keep it just me?
Yeah.
Okay, I have 2 employees. I want to bring on a manager to manage those. They kind of get to those spots where you can catch your breath a little bit.
And something else I was going to ask you earlier is, do you notice that when they hire employees, do they tend to hire employees that are more like themselves or different, or is it just kind of all over the place? And if they do hire those, like I can only imagine that a lot of bosses will hire people that are similar to them in personality, and then that becomes a conflict or becomes an issue because they're just like them and they're not really filling the gaps where maybe they need a little more. I don't know if you see that with any regularity.
Yeah. So there's no rule of thumb there. Like I said, every owner is different. Every business is different. It's kind of like dating probably. Some people hire the person that's just like them and they just butt heads. Some person makes the same kind of toxic repeated mistake over and over again. Some people, they just kind of settle. Like there's a large variety there, but with employees, I would say that the most interesting employee problem is that when an owner gets really lucky and their first hire is really talented, driven, go-getter. Because that's rare.
Yeah.
And now they expect every hire to care about the business as much as them. And it's like, no, like you got the winning lottery ticket here. You have someone that's acting like this is their business and it's not. And now you're upset because this other guy is just showing up for a paycheck. Like that's what you should expect. How do you make this job easy, good, engaging for that guy to succeed and not the guy that really kind of wants to have his own business, but he's using your business as his vehicle for identity. Yeah. That's the interesting trap of your first employee was amazing. They did all this stuff, and now that's what you expect your bar to be. And you've hired and fired 30 people since then that all they were stupid, they were horrible, they were lazy, they didn't care. Like
they weren't to that level.
Yeah. Like you know how lucky you got that your friend's son was great at this thing and he wanted to work for you and he cares a lot. Like that's a very advantageous position to be in.
So do you think that's the issue then when they go through a lot of employees sometimes, is that it's simply they had this great employee, or do you think it's kind of, again, all over the place?
It makes their expectations wrong. So if you go through a lot of employees, there's one of two things. You have a culture issue or you have a systems issue. And usually a systems issue is where you start. So when that employee starts, they have clear training about what their job actually is. Here's how you do this work so that they know what they're even doing. Most time it's, hey, Bill's been here a while, follow Bill around for a while, see what he does. And Bill does it all wrong. And if you watch Bill, you'd hate how Bill did it, but you don't. So now the new guy messes up and you're like, hey, new guy, you're a silly person. Why are you doing it that way? So do you have clear systems and clear training of how you do things? And probably you don't have systems of how Bill does stuff. So you don't have training of how to teach someone new. Step 1 is this, step 2 is this, here's how you even do your job. And now you just think, that guy messes up 4 times, you're like, that guy's an idiot, he can't do anything right. But you didn't actually give him the curriculum to be successful. So usually it's a systems issue, and a business owner is too busy to like, well, shouldn't everyone know how to do X, Y, and Z in my business? Isn't it just self-evident? Yeah. And to them it is, because they're such a technician. That golf pro, like if you ask Tiger Woods, how do you putt? It's hard for him to tell you that because he just hit it in the hole. Like, what are you talking about? Like, where's your weight? He's like, I don't know, like in my feet. Like, it's that same thing for an owner. It's so hard to get down to that basic level. So having someone like me that can ask them, so how do you do this part of your job? That helps them get it out of their head, because I can ask those stupid questions that a new employee is not going to ask because they don't want to be perceived as stupid. And then we get it on paper into steps and then systems, and they can deploy that. The other can be a culture problem where the employer has some development to do on a personal side, where they're yelling at people. They have unrealistic expectations. They're not doing their part. There's other pieces, but systems is the number one reason that someone churns through employees.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Cool. Let's talk about businesses in the Ozarks. Do you have anybody that, I'm always looking for new people to talk to, like you, but maybe not business coaches, but some other kind of business that maybe you feel like is unique, or people that are in the Ozarks in this region that you think would be of good value to anybody who's watching the channel. Any ideas? And you don't have to give me today. You can just shoot me a text of those.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll think about some people. Yeah.
Yeah. And two, some of them you may just be like, you know what, I probably need to check with them first before
Yeah.
I just.
There's a bit of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of good people in the Ozarks here, though.
There are. I've got so many people anyway as it is that just are like, oh yeah, I know this person. I've got this one lady that I know. She's got a guy who's a World War II veteran. She's like, he's seen a lot. He's got some great stories, and I'm like, I think that'd be fun. Something like that. It doesn't have to be exclusively a business. It can be just somebody who's
stories. Yeah,
they've got great stories.
Yeah. So, what's your big picture purpose for this entire podcast? What's your hope?
My hope,
not just for mine, but like all the ones that you do across all your guests.
Yeah. I think it provides a highlight of all the businesses and the people and the things to do in the Ozarks that are great. It's really highlighting the great things about the Ozarks.
Yeah.
And the people that make up the Ozarks.
Yeah.
It's ultimately what it is. That's how it's providing value for them.
Yeah. It's cool.
And I mean, if I can wave my magic wand and say, what's my vision further down the road? It's not just me, because I don't need it to just be me. But I enjoy doing this. I'm like you. I'm like, I just love doing this and getting together people and talking. And we're recording too.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Whether we're talking about business or we're talking about the Ozarks, it doesn't matter to me. I don't have to follow a certain regimen, and certainly we can talk about whatever. But if I had my choice about it, I would love to have other people who are me or like me, who might cover other aspects of the Ozarks. Maybe there's somebody who's just an outdoor person. Yeah. And they're just going to cover everything in the Ozarks. I think that'd be awesome. Yeah. And then they collaborate with me, and it all kind of comes together. And again, it's still providing value for anybody that lives in the Ozarks, whether they live here today or they want to live here. And I think, that's kind of my vision of what it looks like. Cool. Is to be able to provide entertainment, education, informational. Nice. All of those things. And we'll have fun doing it too, nonetheless.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Like a snapshot of what it's like to be in the area. Yeah. The people you'll meet.
Yeah, not like, I mean, I want it to be real, and I want it to be raw, not so much like it's polished. Right. Even though I wear this, it's like, this isn't Biz 417 or SBJ, and there's nothing wrong. They have a time and place. Yeah. But this is more like,
informal conversation. Yeah. Very cool.
And I don't know that there is another of me per se, but I'm sure there are some of me out there. But like somebody maybe that's in Northwest Arkansas, they're like, hey, I saw that. I want to do some of that stuff. That would be cool to be able to do that. Yeah. And then now we've got coverage in Northwest Arkansas, parts of Northwest Arkansas.
Split it up.
That'd be. Yeah. And then together, again, it's all collaborated. That would be my ideal world of what that looks like.
I think we'd be remiss if we didn't at least discuss before we wrap up for sure.
Yeah.
Living in the Ozarks and the weather.
Next topic.
Next topic. Well, what has the weather been like the last 24 hours here?
Well, let's see. We were at 70 something yesterday.
Yeah, I walked my dog 70 degrees or 65, whatever, yesterday morning, and then snow by the evening.
I know, it was crazy. I had gone out and I went and showed some property, a few properties, and by the time we got done, it was like I was glad that I had brought my pullover, because I was like, man, it's one of those that's really thick and warm, but still, it was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of the extreme end of the Ozarks weather.
Yeah, it'll be 80 again here in a few days. That's,
I know.
That's part of how this fake spring goes. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine who was like, oh, I had all my flowers ready and they looked great, and it was, I was excited for it. And it's like just
got hammered.
I covered it up and everything, and then the wind just came and blew it all away. Oh yeah,
that wind was intense too.
Yeah, it was pretty insane. But that's. And I think about, like, I talk to my kids, and they're like, "Oh, this weather's crazy." I'm like, "Yeah, but I think it's been some variant of this as far back as I can remember."
Yeah,
I mean, we'll have, when I was young, probably late 70s, 80s. I think we had this like 22-inch snow or something crazy like that. And I don't think it was exclusively because we had big snow this year. Actually.
Snow like around Easter before, yeah.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
We've had big snows
Yeah.
in March and April for sure.
It's a wild part of living in the Ozarks.
It is, and it's not just the Ozarks because it's funny because I've seen I've seen some stuff in Texas, and they're like, "Oh, you don't like the weather? Just hang around." It's like, wait a minute,
that's our saying.
That's ours.
We have that.
You can't use that.
No,
but they do.
It's copyrighted.
So yeah, the weather is crazy. It's what kind of games do you guys play? Board games, or you do video games, or
a little bit of both.
Okay.
So to get super nerd-tastic.
Oh, that's okay. Let's do that.
A couple of weeks ago,
I'm going to cut this part out.
Yeah, this is boring. This is for not for the other people. But we installed Linux on a computer. So
fun.
So Windows is kind of changing and all that stuff. And I've been a Linux fan since the
Me
90s.
Too.
And
well,
at that time,
90s.
I was trying to install it with my friend, and it would never work. You had like 8 disks of Red Hat Linux, and you put them in, and you run it, partition all the drives and stuff, and we'd wait hours and hours, and then it would just not be a successful run installation, or it couldn't see the modem because of hardware issues, and there's only a terminal you had to type to do things. So we successfully installed Linux, my friend Zach and I, a couple weeks ago, and played some Diablo video games on Linux computers. So it was like massive success. Got Linux up for the first time. It was like a whole life dream to be. I'm a Linux guy, and played some Diablo for old time's sake.
Which version? Just like the Linux? Just Linux?
Bazite is a new popular one.
Okay.
A lot of Windows users are using because it's fairly user-friendly, kind of how it manages updates and stuff. It's not so finicky.
Yeah.
Bazzite. So, yeah.
I was always a Linux Mint. Wasn't it Ubuntu?
Yeah.
Linux Mint. Used
Fedora,
a few
all the
different
good ones. Yeah.
And I at one point when I was in school, I had a thumb drive that I could just... So I'd plug it in, restart the computer, and it would automatically go to that drive. You'd have to do your F12 or delete or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it would run it, and it didn't matter what it was. And I was like, this is great. This is fantastic. So,
yeah.
And there was another guy I knew that he had a device that he could just plug in your phone, and he could do the same thing. And it was just, I'm like, he was at a whole nother level. He's one of those guys that you just how did you even
get there? Yeah.
But yeah, that's great. Yeah,
so that was the video game side. I do a lot of board games too, and my friend, he's kind of deeper into that world than I. So like, oh, what are you playing today? And he'll just kind of say, oh, this is a fun game I've played, and I'll jump in. I don't know the names of some of them, but I've had just a good time. So.
Cool. Are they strategy games or?
Yeah, kind of strategy games. Yeah, kind of the deeper tabletop games.
Fun.
Yeah,
fun. I enjoy that too. My son's a big Risk fan.
The game that takes 92 hours to play.
He likes any of those kind of games.
Yeah.
He's very much all about that. I enjoy that too. Not maybe as much as he does, but he definitely is like all in. Like, let's play.
It's good to get to bond and play.
It is,
right?
It is.
Like,
yeah.
What about Monopoly? Are you is Monopoly allowed, or is that a way that you don't make friends?
I'd rather play cash flow. Because there is some level of practicality, pragmatism that it's going to hopefully, you've played the game before, right?
I've heard of it. I haven't played it. Is that the Kiyosaki version of Monopoly?
Ish.
Yeah.
It's more
inspired
like,
by.
Here's your job, right? Here's your income. Here are your bills. And now let's get you out of the rat race.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it's much more practical, like, here's your income. Here's all the things. And then you've got this many kids or whatever, and you'll have kids along the way, just like real life. And they're kind of random. You'll pull cards, but sometimes you'll get an opportunity. Like, here's an opportunity to buy this or that. And you get to a point where you're now not in the rat race. You're out, and you've got financial freedom. So you've got all your bills covered. Now let's get to the big wheel. And there's a whole nother. Anyway, it's fun because it can teach your kids a whole different mindset instead of, I have to be an employee and I'm going to go do this thing. It's more like, oh, I can still do that job and start saving money to be able to, or hack, house hack or whatever it is, so that I can get out of this place where I just have to work a job and I'm a slave. I'm an indentured servant. Right?
Yeah. And think strategically. Have that visionary piece, right?
It's Yeah, but I mean, it's good for everybody, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter if you're an
Yeah.
S personality type or a C or whatever. I think everybody can enjoy it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the one I'm going to go to when it comes
Cool.
to Monopoly, and I've got it. It was
Nice.
like $70 or something
Yeah,
crazy. Like
that's
that.
fun.
My wife always looks at me like, "Come on!" But I've played with friends, so yeah,
Nice.
it's good. It is fun, but it does help. That's the thing, is it helps you get from a point where you're not just in that employee mindset. You're more an investor mindset. So
Yeah.
it's
Very cool.
yeah, it is. And I like board games. I like D&D. I've done that many times. Played some GURPS, which is another version of D&D that was maybe back in the 80s, I think. More like Marvel, kind of like that ish, loosely. It was much more open-ended of however you want to create characters. You ever done anything like that, D&D?
Yeah, I've done a little bit of D&D, not a ton, but I've done a little bit and I enjoyed it. I did a little bit of like Magic the Gathering, stuff like that. So I'm kind of like surface like nerd. I always would like to go deeper, but people thought I wasn't interested in being as nerdy as they were or something, So I didn't get invited as much D&D as I would have liked to, Like they're like, oh, he's too cool for that, and I'm like, oh, I'm plenty nerdy. Like, let me in. And the cool kids are like, hey, he's not cool enough to be with us. So I was kind of floated in the middle.
Yeah, I
somewhere.
got you.
Yeah,
I got you. I was one who just kind of floated everywhere. So.
Yeah, me too.
But
not deep enough,
in a different
apparently.
way. I mean, I played D&D, and I had some friends that like to do that. So yeah, but I didn't play a ton. I wouldn't say that. I definitely played it more recently, probably in the last 15 years.
Cool.
A lot deeper.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed some podcasts, which I think are pretty funny. There's one. Is it D20? I think it's D20.
That makes sense.
They've got a podcast, and then there's another one too that's really pretty funny. That occasionally I don't have enough time for. That.
Yeah.
Usually I'm focused on everything else, not that. But when I do have absolute free time, I like to do that.
Yeah.
Or listen to a book or read a book. That's fun too. I'm a Brandon Sanderson fan.
Oh, I've been on the Brandon Sanderson kick. I've tried to read all of his stuff. Which of his series, or what are you reading now?
Well, I've read the
Mistborn
series, and then the Way of
Stormlight
Kings,
Archives.
Stormlight Archives.
Yeah.
I'm going through that, and it's been probably, I don't know, 14 years or something like that. So I went through the first two. Actually, the first 2.5, is that right? Because there's like the Edge Dancer or something like that. And so I'm on Oathbreaker again.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's another one I think I've already gotten after that too. But then Mistborn, I've read all those. And it seems like I've read another series of his. But I really like the Mistborn and the Way of Kings, Arclight.
Yeah.
Whatever it's called.
He is so prolific. I had never really knew much about him, and had a friend a few years ago say, hey, you should check him out. And I started reading, and I was like, oh, this was a great series. Don't worry, he has like 82 other books, and he puts out a new one like every year.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I actually wrote an extra book between this last book, and he's just super organized, and that's been really fun to read his stuff for sure.
Yeah, I enjoy his stuff. It's been a while though. So for so many, I'm like you, I'm reading so many different books in business, and there's a point where you're like, okay, I need to scooch back away from the table and do something a little different.
My book count has way dwindled. So my general rule is I'll do business books in audiobook form usually, and a book for fun, I'll actually have the paper book. So these are kind of props of books that I've read.
I got you.
But first year in business, I probably read 150 business books. Second year, 70. This past year, I'll probably read like 12, 5, because it's really like not how much new information, but what can I actually apply? Like what actually matters, and not what are all just the ideas, but what actually is applicable to me or to my clients that right away becomes a tool, because more is not better.
Yeah, for sure. There is a threshold of like whether it's absorption or just like they're saying the same things.
Yeah.
There's a point where you're like, okay.
I
read, you talk about Earl
Nightingale.
Nightingale. So I read, of course, Napoleon Hill, and that was probably one of the first ones. I was like 39 and a half. I read that, and it's like, oh, this is so great. And it's one of those that I like to go back and reread just because, just like a great movie, as you experience life, you go back and you do it again, and you're like, I believe that every book, as your perspective change, if it's a great book,
Yeah.
you go back and you read it and you get new things that you pull out of it.
Oh,
And I
totally.
think that's true with that. But I also read, it was like Andrew Carnegie, which
How to
that's the
win
way he
friends and influence people.
No, actually, the memoirs,
Oh,
which was interesting because it's his public-facing version of the memoirs from him, which is the guy, of course, that Napoleon Hill wrote. That's the interviews that he did. And so that was fascinating to see from his perspective. And of course, it's not everything. It's not. But they've got he's got a family version too.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, he definitely.
I was thinking Dale Carnegie. Yeah, Andrew Carnegie was the steel magnate that Napoleon Hill wrote about. Yeah,
Definitely, it was him. I mean, he was the primary, not the only one. But yeah, it's fascinating. And then you get into. I mean, we can talk for hours. I'm sure. You get into talking about. Oh man, it's almost 4:00. Dear God.
we have talked for hours.
Yes,
This would be the longest podcast you ever
it
did.
probably would.
Yeah.
If these conversations resonate with you, consider subscribing to Living in the Ozarks. And if there's a business, organization, or person we should be talking to, drop their name in the comments below. We're always looking for great stories.